You should be saving for the future, but savings accounts suck, and investing can be scary. We combine the ease of savings with the real returns of investing. We call it Save Vesting, and it's only available in our new app, Stairs. Stairs offers 4 to 6% returns, no fees, and you can withdraw anytime. Do your future a favor. Visit StairsApp.com today.
What you want is sometimes far from what you get. At Harry Ritchie's, we want you to get the heart-stopping, high-fiving diamond gift you want and pay for it the way you want. Our in-house financing lets you make payments that fit your budget and your life. Plus, at Harry Ritchie's, our jewelry is priced at an everyday, real price. That means you get all of the dazzle with none of the haggling. More boom for your buck. Now open at Clackamas Promenade. Harry Ritchie's, truly you.
You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms, including Spotify, iTunes, Podbase, Speaker, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and more. And don't forget that this podcast is also featured at the Chairshot.com, one of our partners. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And let me bring in the rest of our team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Miranda?
I am doing well. Really living for this pre-Halloween season. Halloween just a few days away.
So good.
I went to the store to pick up the final pieces of my Halloween costume, and so many people. I had not seen a Halloween store packed in years. So, you know, as much as we always talk about how things have changed over the past year, going back to the stores to see people shop for costumes is one of those major things for me personally.
I saw a great little joke post online about the whole COVID lockdown was just so that more storefronts would be available for Spirit of Halloween to be open.
Yes, Spirit Halloweens are everywhere.
Yeah, there's one here in town too. It's awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of spirits, you may be wondering, who is that third person talking?
Ooh, the disembodied voice.
Who
could it be? Who?
It is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
I can't right now. I just can't. Okay.
Right? Yeah, no, we're that good. It's so spooky. It's spooky season, brother. It's spooky.
Spooky season. It's my favorite time of year.
It's so spooky because, like, you came out of nowhere. We didn't even know. We're like, who is this guy? Where's he coming from? Yes, everyone. No, this is the trio. If this is your first time listening to the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, thank you so much. And if you are a returned listener, thank you so much. We are very excited to go. We're excited to have you on this week's show. Make sure to check out all of our previous shows on luchacentral.com and our favorite podcast streaming platforms, including our interview with Gina Medina, who we had the pleasure of speaking to. That interview is now up and live, ready to go. You can listen to it, get to learn more about who Gino Medina is, his background and family heritage in lucha libre, working for Major League Wrestling, being trained by Booker T, and much, much more. It was a fantastic interview, and that is available on luchacentral.com.
You skipped beating up Psycho Clown. Sorry.
Oh, beating up Psycho Clown. Yes. I my apologies, lo siento, that I forgot about him talking about beating up Psycho Clown and how he'll do it for Brendan. Really, next time. Brendan, anytime that Gino Medina has the ability to beat up Psycho Clown, I heard that pretty much Brendan has a front row pass.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it.
I will make it happen one way or another. I'll kick somebody out of a seat if I have to.
Just sit on their lap.
Yeah, you could lap it if you wanted to. But if not, bring your own chair maybe, or take someone else's chair. Or you could say, actually, Gino Medina reserved this especially for me. I know you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you weren't.
Told me I could be your lucha lap buddy, and I'm supposed to sit here with you.
That would get Brendan kicked out of the show.
Yeah.
Possibly. You know what? I'm not gonna.
Somebody might be down for it.
Yeah, or you make a new best friend.
Got some fans out there. People might pay extra for the VIP experience to have Brendan sit in their lap.
I would not assume that's a VIP.
We should test that out.
So you're gonna give it to the regular, the non-VIPs? Like, come on, it's gotta be the VIPs.
That's not a really good business model, Brendan. I mean, not a really good business model.
Okay. I'm not good at self-promotion.
Very fair. Oh gosh, very fair. That's what. I can't. We're already off the rails.
We're off the rails.
I blame spooky season.
It's spooky season is to blame. I believe we were going to talk about. We were going to follow up on the PWI list.
Yes, the PWI Women's 150 came out last week. On last week's show, we were able to read you off the top 10 women from this past year that included Diana Barrazzo, Io Shirai, and Raquel Gonzalez. This week, we have a more in-depth list of women on the list, including all of the lucha libre, lucha-centric, lucha-adjacent wrestlers, and it's a pretty plentiful list. The next highest luchadora on the list is Fabi Apache at number 25. We have Roxy at 28. Lady Shani at 45. Rosa Negra at 53. Princesa Suhate at 54. Dallas at number 71. Miranda Alizé at 102. Alex Gracia at 108. Legends of Lucha Libre star Christy James at 110. Probably should do this also. I think Legends of Lucha Libre star as well. At 125, Lady Maravilla. 126, Frankie Monet. At 132, Eva Lise. At 133, Diamante. And at 146, Chic Tormenta. So I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on this list. Are there any notable names that stand out to you or numbers that stand out to you guys?
For me, it's that both Taya, Frankie Monet, she dropped 109 spots over last year. She was 17 last year. Eva Lise was number 31 last year. Now she's number 132. How the mighty have fallen. Like, you can see how much these women not being on TV, not having the significant time they had in their companies before, how immediately and drastically that affected them in the rankings. And even though it's largely kayfabe, largely based on TV, I feel like that's very accurate for the momentum this year. Like, I think that the way they position things, Thunder Rosa moved up like 12 spots this year. I agree. She's like that much better. But it's sad, I guess, in a way, because I still think Taya is one of the most exciting wrestlers in the world, period. Hands down. And to see her go from 17 to 126 feels like a real slap in the face.
It's really kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she did have to go somewhere. I think she should be higher, but I can't put like a number on it or say that anybody on this list should be lower than her either.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
it's accurate. It's just sad.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I think it's going to be a struggle for her because now she's in a bigger pond in NXT. Whereas on Impact, she was definitely a bigger fish in a smaller pond. I believe she left Impact towards the end of last year. So we hadn't really seen her in the ring for several months within, early 2020. So I think that too, that transition out of Impact to NXT. But I agree that from now on, I think it's going to be harder for her to move up the rankings just because, her visibility is it's just going to change.
Yeah. But so we keep commenting on visibility, but so that means I want to call out 25 and 28, Fabi Apache and Roxy. Both of them worked very quietly, but they worked a lot of shows during the lockdown. Like, we didn't see a lot of it. I was reading off results. Dusty was reading off results, but we didn't necessarily see a lot of it. And then they managed to move all the way up to, the top 30. Roxy in particular, was unranked last year. Also, we should point out this is the first year that it goes to 150.
Yes.
So anyone, Lady Maravilla, all the way down to Cheek Tormenta, they all got the benefit of the added list. But Roxy was unranked last year. She probably would have been in the extra 50 had they been there. But here she is at number 28, well deserved because it was her year. She worked dozens, if not, more matches over the course of the year. She, wound up in the ROH women's tournament. So her hard work paid off. And again, Fabi Apache had, just worked as many AAA shows and indie shows as she could pull off. And wound up in that angle with Deonna Purrazzo, who was in the top 10. So again, but they were just less visible and still managed to quietly work their way up. So I also respect the fact that work rate and as well as it seems to be represented here. Also, again, there's more on this list than there was. We only had a handful of names to talk about when we did this list last year.
Yeah.
So significantly more luchadores this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They expanded the field to 150 instead of 100, but at the same time, even by ratio, we have considerably more this year.
Yeah.
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 It's a big improvement, and it shows that we're putting a wider eye to the overall product. We talked about that a bit last week, but the rest of this list really plays that out even more, that they were looking everywhere and they were looking at as much as they could. I mean, Christy Janes, you have to work hard to find her indie matches on TV somewhere.
Yeah. And I'd say the same thing with Miranda Alizé and Alex Gracia, even though they were also part of the Ring of Honor women's tournament, they were also working very hard out in the independent scene. So I look a lot of those three, Miranda Alizé, Alex Gracia, and Kristen Janes, very much in a group of women consistently out, throughout the United States working. But, Miranda and Alex, especially getting some of the benefit of being in part of the Women of Honor tournament. So I feel like, that too, but I feel like they all benefited from having, these could have been women that were going to be cut off right at that cusp. But, now have that ability to be on this list, and hopefully that generates more buzz around them, because they are the ones going out state to state to state, every week.
In a tough year.
Yeah.
In a tough year. It's not like 2019 where you could go to any indie show and you just be like, I'm going to be in Dallas this weekend. Give me your shows. You had to work to get shows this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, again, the full list of the PWI Women's 150 is available now for purchase. You can get the entire list and the entire edition of that magazine at really wherever, mainly on digital format. But I think they still have available in physical copies as well.
I have at least 2 friends who get them. The print copies are not coming out this month, so if you are a subscriber, you will have to wait to pick up your print copy next month.
There you go. So with that, we are going to start off our shows like we always do with the road back to shows with Brendan.
All right. So we talked about Mexico being green and opening up to fans last week, so we're gonna keep going with that. Shows are running. Although interestingly enough, Car the Crash, who we talked about during the lockdown for having a show being shut down, having the venue formally locked, depending on which week the report was, it was either COVID, it was either a COVID related shutdown or it was related to noise complaints from the neighbors. We still don't know which one it really was. They're running a show on the 30th. It is being very quietly touted as the last show at this venue. They're not really giving us any story behind it. So I have no idea if it's that they're tired of dealing with the neighbors who complain all the time, or if the government.
Why I bought a house.
Yeah, there's any number of reasons, but they haven't given us anything. They've only just a couple of times alluded to the fact that this is going to be the last show in that venue. It will be interesting that it's branded For the Crash, which was supposed to be one of their home away from homes. So I don't know if that is related to anything they're doing, but yeah, that's the story. I don't know anything. I tried. I dug as much as I could to find out, but all I know is they're just saying they're running the last show. Stay tuned, I guess. So we've had some big match announcements coming up. I'm looking forward to constantly bringing this type of new story up. Galley is bringing us Aries and Aramis defending their tag team titles. And Dusty, are you ready for this? It's against Mr. Iguana and Dante Martin.
Oh,
that's a money match right there.
Okay then.
I mean, no, that'll be a real banger for real. Right? I think that could be very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only problem I have is who's going to base. It sounds like Yeska's going to have to base everything. So I don't know how that's going to work. But.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work too well.
But yeah, I mean, I want to see that match. That's Galley, that's Chicago. So those of you in the middle part of the states, you have a very special match coming your way, and it's well worth your time to look into that. And Galley usually shows up on IWTV shortly after, so we will do our best to make you aware when this is watchable. This weekend, IWRG is doing their annual spooky Castle of Terror match, where the contestants will put their mask and or hair on the line, and the last person to escape the cage loses whatever is on the line for them. So if it's Dr. Wagner, who is potentially in this match, they've teased people who could be in it, but they haven't given us an official lineup. He'd lose his hair. If it's one of Wagner's kids who still have masks, it would be their masks, just to give you an example here. And they're all people who potentially could be on there. IWRG draws wide from the indies. There's even more options available now that we're going to get to later, which is probably smart of them to not answer or to not give the full details away, but I always love this match. I love spooky time of year in Lucha, and this is one of the big ones for me. So wanted to make sure we got that. Speaking of dream matches that we might be seeing, or other things happening, just a quick little tidbit. Super Astro says that he has left CMLL mostly because he wants to wrestle more in the U.S. That might also make him available for that IWRG, but that's a digression there. What is interesting to me about this is when we were talking about this in 2019 and 2020 even, the momentum really was there to bring luchadors to the United States. We had a number of promotions. Yeah. We had a number of promotions that were featuring luchadors prominently and respectfully. We still do, although, the landscape is changing significantly. We're going to get to that soon. So I hope that this works out as well for Super Astro as it could have in 2019. We will see, because I want to see him in more shows, but maybe we'll get him hooked up and get him at an Expo Lucha. I'd love to see him alongside, Solar, who's a regular at Expo Lucha. So,
Yeah. Los Cadets del Espacio.
Yeah, see? Dusty knows.
Yeah.
I can't.
What's up?
And then the last story I've got on that in this whole vein is just another quick one. Grand Metalik is tweeting about wanting to face TJP while he's in Mexico, which kind of is alluding to the fact that he wants to wrestle in Mexico sooner rather than later, because for those of you who don't know, we'll talk about this later, TJP is in Mexico right now. So just I like this little tease. I wanted to throw that out there because it got me excited. So I'm hoping it gets other people excited. Those of you who don't know, Grand Metalik is my favorite member of the Lucha House Party. Dusty has his own favorite. So we're,
Lennon and McCartney of the Lucha House Party.
But yeah, I was excited by that idea. So, I'm going to move over to the indie roundup real quick. We have a big news story, so I'm only going to cover a little bit here. A huge thank you to PCW Ultra for inviting the podcast to come down. Unfortunately, I was the only one that could make it, so we didn't have as big a presence at PCW Ultra last weekend in Los Angeles, but I was there. It was a great show. We had a good time. A lot of big stuff happened. There's a lot of good matches. For full results, you can check out my socials, as well as I'm going to try and have this submitted online later. But Lucha adjacent matches. We had Viva Van going for the PCW Ultra Women's title against Ruby Reyes, and much to the shock of the audience, like they barely made the 3 count that most fans do. Viva Van came out on top on this one. They were playing up she was outsized and outpowered, and Ruby Reyes is a bit more of a vet than her too, so this was widely being portrayed as an upset, and the aftermath of the match would kind of support that Ruby Reyes thought she was going to win too, because she took the belt, and we've seen variations on this where people nicely hand the belt to the new champ and raise their hand, but she took the belt and instead beat the hell out of Viva Van with it and then stormed off. That plays out later in the night, but congratulations to Viva Van on winning the women's title. That I'm sure we will see her defending that at shows in the near future. I will definitely be talking to her about that when she comes up to Seattle sometime for a Defy show, because I know she will now. So good job, and it was a hell of a match, really. And then in our main event, we had War Beast and 5150 going to war. This was a match that was billed as All Violence is Legal, which is kind of a War Beast sort of trademark. They lived up to that. This went through the crowd. You had chairs, you had tables, you had a fireball. It's not a War Beast match without a fireball going somewhere.
True.
Well, yeah, they know what the people want.
They do. They totally do. And the people were absolutely into this. From the moment that 5150 came out, the crowd was booing the hell out of them. They were trying to get them out of the building just with their words. War Beast came out and everybody lit it up. There was several F New York chants that happened throughout the course of the match. Every time somebody ate a table, it was amazing. It was Danny who ate the fireball and then got pinned for the 3 count, so War Beast did retain. But the real story coming out of this is right after that happened, from right next to me even, so that made this extra awesome, Papa Esco came roaring out to the ring with a baton, and he started to beat the heck out of War Beast. Danny and Slice recovered, and they joined in, making it clear they were all kind of participating in this together. And then Juicy Finau came out.
Juicy.
Yeah.
I just love Juicy. It's actually like a gut reaction every time I hear Juicy's name. I have to then say Juicy.
It's true. Every time he's announced, that's the appropriate counter response. So he came out, kind of evened things up, but then Ruby Reyes, again, from right next to me. I had this wonderful spot on the aisle, and both times these run-ins happened, I didn't notice them until they elbowed me on their way past. So thanks for letting me know you were there. I actually appreciated that. No sarcasm. It made my night. And so that set up a 4-on-4 match with War Beast versus this 5150 faction. I don't know if they're still going to be 5150 with all of that, but yeah, so we're going to have War Beast of Fatu and Samael with Juicy Finau and Viva Van against Rivera, Slice, Papo Esco, and Ruby Reyes, January 28th, which is my birthday weekend, so I'm thinking I might treat myself and go down and see some 4-on-4 violence. But that was our PCW Ultra. Again, thank you to PCW Ultra for inviting us down. I had a great time, and I will probably go back again, maybe even the 28th. That sounds like it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
That's my indie roundup. Again, I was keeping this small this week. We did feature somebody who invited us to an event. So, we, as I always try and pitch, we don't have to always be invited. You can send us footage. You can send us results. We will feature you on the air. We tend to favor the people who submit stuff to us over me going out and finding it. So, later we'll give out socials, and you can get that, and you can get full results of the PCW Ultra from my Twitter feed as well.
There you go. And yeah, make sure to follow us on social media. That way you get information on just those little tidbits on upcoming events in the independent scene, reminders of when our show pops in, interviews that we're doing, all of that. But again, reach out to us if you are an independent wrestling fan, promotion, wrestler in the world of Lucha Libre. We'd love to feature your stuff on a future edition of the Indie Roundup. Up next, though, you know what time it is. It is time for Denise Salcedo to let us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network with Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. special guests, and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWI promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who's letting you know what's happening throughout Lucha Central Central, all the podcasts that are airing, where you can find them, and of course, visiting luchacentral.com.
I forgot to give Denise a shout out. She was also at the PCW Ultra show. She said hi to everybody listening. And, just wanted to give her the love back. Thank you for being a good, gracious host, Denise.
Yes. So, up next, we have some breaking news within the world of professional wrestling. It just come out over the past day with Ring of Honor. We have to start talking about this because, this has implications that trickle all throughout wrestling. And, of course, with the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, as a healthy amount of their talent are luchadors. So that gives us, we'll get into a second, but Brendan, what an announcement we saw yesterday from Ring of Honor.
So before we get to the huge announcement, I'm going to start with the non-news. There was nothing lucha-centric on TV this week. So if you were excited about maybe watching something on TV, this isn't the week for you. We will give you the status of what's coming up on TV in a second because this giant announcement that happened here. ROH went on social media and announced that they are currently releasing everybody from their contracts, effective at the end of December. So, and they're going to, everybody, just in typical ROH fashion, you're still going to get paid. If you were booked, you will still get paid through the end of this contract, but the contract will be, everybody will be released. Everybody is immediately available to appear anywhere they want, which is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. That means we have all of these luchadors that are on the ROH roster now free with work permits in the U.S. to just go anywhere. And as well as going back to Mexico and doing shows. So craziness. I have updates on what will be happening with TV, but I know you guys have been chomping at the bit to talk about this. So what do you guys think? I'm going to kick it over to Dusty first.
Well, it's crazy. This is kind of unprecedented. I always enjoyed Ring of Honor when they were like the super indie, when there weren't like contracted Ring of Honor wrestlers. It was just the super indie, like, the final boss of indies. I think that's kind of what they're going back towards. It's interesting. All of the wrestlers I saw seemed to be very thankful and gracious towards Ring of Honor. I thought there might be a little bit of, kind of sour grapes or upset feelings, that they were ending all this, but all the wrestlers seem very satisfied with it. So at least they're going about it the right way. But I don't know what this means for the product going forward if they're going to be a super indie. they really dropped the ball. I believe Bully Ray mentioned this on Busted Open Radio, but they really dropped the ball with Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and the G1 Supercard was the one that really stuck out to me. Like, that was their a big missed opportunity, one of their biggest missed opportunities. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like an overcorrection for them not knowing what to do going forward. Allegedly, the tape library is for sale, so I don't know what any of this means for Ring of Honor. None of it's great. There were rumors, was it last year or 2019, that Anthem might want to buy Ring of Honor or might be buying Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how they're doing this now. It helps make the product as attractive to a new buyer as possible, especially if they didn't necessarily want the roster with the company. Yeah. The name might be worth more than anything else, or it also explains why Ring of Honor has not worked with AEW, why the Forbidden Door hasn't opened that way. We've kind of all wondered about that. It's been mentioned a lot of times. We, as recently as the Lucha Bros with Dragon Lee and Drilistico, we thought they might be coming to AEW. But if the company was quietly closing the doors going forward, they're allegedly coming back in April. I don't know. I think we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, on that. As much as it feels possible this could be a new chapter, something new, Ring of Honor had gotten stale. They put all their eggs in the Marty Scurll basket, and then that obviously went bad for them during the, Time's Up, Me Too era for the wrestling industry, especially the British wrestling industry. And so they needed something new, but I don't think this was it. This feels very severe. It feels drastic. And it just kind of feels like the end of Ring of Honor in a way to me.
So, I'm gonna cut in here real quick. The rumor is that it was Sinclair Broadcasting, the parent company that owns ROH, that put pressure for this to happen.
That's what I had heard too, so that's why I wondered if maybe it was for sale. Or if they'd gotten an offer on it.
Yeah, let's beat that rumor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know, so that's we're in a time right now where everyone's still gathering, information on that. And I mean, first, I think initially just seeing that social media post, was, really shocking for a lot of ROH fans because we had consistently seen, the television product. They had been going back to live events with an audience. They had just revamped their women's division. So I do feel like this had kind of come out of nowhere, that if maybe they hadn't had shows for a while, that maybe this wouldn't have been as surprising. But I think also the struggles that they had, that they were one of the first promotions to shut down completely when the pandemic started.
Yeah. And they did everything right.
Yeah, they did everything right, and they, put together shows with no audience still. So it was very hard for them, I think, to generate money. What all of the implications about, what could be happening too. I mean, I think it's hard to tell, at least from my perspective, and with all the stories out there, it does mean that, it overall feels like this could be the end of Ring of Honor, just the way that people are approaching it. I also do think it's smart, at least for Ring of Honor, the way that they have approached this with their talent, to say, this is as far as that we can go with you, but, feel free to start planning your futures. We support you in that. And so, at least on what we've seen, a level of transparency, and effort of trying to keep this together, and just likely financially not being able to. I don't know if there is a revamp happening in between now and then, but I do think that some of this gets people's attention to the point where if, they didn't maybe have offers or didn't have interest up till now, they sure are going to have people's attention between now and April for the rest of this year, because Ring of Honor has been such an integral part of independent wrestling. And AEW would not exist if it were not for Ring of Honor. And so they have all of that there. There's the people that have come through the doors of Ring of Honor, I mean, are the people that we see now on television that have, headlined pay-per-views and WrestleManias and everything,
Changed the direction of the industry.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
We can't understate how important these ROH graduates are.
But we haven't seen that in quite some time, because you've had like NXT, which essentially became the Ring of Honor within WWE, even though NXT, though, has changed its direction too. Wrestling looks different now. You have AEW that has really taken the place of Ring of Honor on a televised platform. So who is Ring of Honor now?
Right.
And I think that's been a question people have been asking for quite some time. I think what helps make them stand apart was their level of talent, the peer division, the utilization of luchadors. Those were all things that made them very unique and allowed them to have a product that stood out. But what does that mean in generating revenue and new fans? That I think where there's an issue there as well. And how do you then reformat your business strategy if you have to kind of shrink down, or if you have to kind of reformat your business plan to maybe be a little smaller? And maybe that's what I'm thinking. If they are re-strategizing and are able to continue, they got to break things down, and they have to kind of, reel things in and really go to a more simplistic model, at least now, because there's just too much competition and not enough money out there.
So we keep going to it. So I am going to talk. They have given us a little bit of an outline of what the future will look like. As I mentioned, they're going to go till December. They're going to have the Final Battle pay-per-view. I don't know if it's going to be a pay-per-view anymore. That's a whole other conversation, but they're going to have Final Battle, which will be the end of ROH in its current iteration. And then they will come back. In theory, they're going to come back in the spring with a new fan-focused direction. That is according to their mission statements that they have put out. We will continue to see ROH television through Sinclair Broadcasting. All the way through December, they will still have new programming. They are recording this weekend to have everything up through that. And then we will have clip shows all the way until the relaunch. So that may or may not change if, as Dusty and I are speculating that Sinclair is doing this because they want to put them up for sale. And the library, if the library goes with them, that may change as well. But as of right now, that is the official plan. So we do every continuing episode of ROH that we get with content on it is going to be kind of special. And I think that's important to stress too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's important to note that Ring of Honor's TV license or TV deal isn't working because Sinclair owns the station. Sinclair
Correct,
owns
yeah.
Ring of Honor. They only air on Sinclair stations. So like for WWE, AEW, TV presence is a huge moneymaker. That's the main moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
Ring of Honor right now, that makes nothing. So these free shows they were putting on, that made them nothing.
Yeah.
It was just important to note that when we discuss it.
Ultimately, when you talk about the video library, that is something that has just come out really today. That video library could be where they could make a whole lot of money. Because of all of the content that they've had over the years, the wrestlers that they've had. To say that there may not be a bidding war after that library, I mean, it could be super lucrative because you have, entities like WWE who could add that to the catalog and make a whole lot of money. Now, I don't know what that looks like as far as how it is under Peacock, because I think this would be essentially the first big acquisition of content for WWE since moving to Peacock.
Post-Peacock, yeah.
Yeah, but you also have AEW, who I am sure is looking to start building their own catalog, of course, of their own content. But if they can also jumpstart that with Ring of Honor content, decades, of content there, that could really help them in launching their own platform or launching their own library. So I think the stakes are very high for that library, at least with those two parties. Who know, what else or who else may be putting in a bid for it, but that's where they could make that money, is in the library.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm going to just put this pitch out there now because I still support the current iteration of ROH heavily. It's only $9.99 to join the Honor Club right now, which gives you access to everything they've put in there from their library up, which is pretty extensive. It will get you a free Honor Club exclusive match that's being filmed at this weekend or event that's being filmed at this weekend's tapings, as well as the Final Battle event in December. So $10 gets you a lot right now, including access to all of that library.
Yeah, watch it while you can.
Yeah, watch it while you can for this, And again, this is just this is now a time full of buzz, of what could be happening. And I think we have what Ring of Honor is presenting to us, in their social media, messages. And now we're getting, of course, what we will continue to hear from different, news outlets and sources. I think that it's, a hard time for, now too, with everyone getting out of their contracts, that means a whole wide range of people that are available and what that means for them. I'm very curious your guys' thoughts on specifically the luchadors who are contracted, with Ring of Honor, like LFI, like Bandito. What are your thoughts? Already, I believe Bandito has been signed to be on a few GCW shows, Game Changer Wrestling shows, I believe.
No surprise there.
Yeah.
He was already working indies before he did ROH, and that just frees him up to do a few more dates. So Bandito specifically was in CMLL last, before ROH, or actually during. And they very specifically CMLL very specifically burned that bridge. So, yeah, he could go anywhere. But I'm just gonna point this out. We've got a couple of pay-per-views for some of the companies coming up. AEW has Full Gear, I believe it is, coming up soon. And, Miranda, does Impact have a pay-per-view coming up soon?
Yes, Turning Point in November.
So you could see a lot of surprise matches and surprise entrants at those, is what I'm speculating. Cause that gives them, both of these gives them time to negotiate contracts, even if it's a one-off appearance. And, and then showing up as kind of a big surprise at the pay-per-view, which will create interest and buzz for sure. Mm-hmm. And Impact is notorious for taking advantage of this. Every time there's a mass release at WWE, they tease that they're all showing up there.
Yeah. Well, and also same thing with AEW. That could be, and they're already pretty full. But again, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of content weekly. 6 hours of content weekly.
And they're featuring the AAA belts as their secondary tag team titles, as well as Kenny Omega recently having held the Mega Championship. So bringing in lucha talent, especially those that could be working for AAA. That's the third avenue that we could see. We could see some of these guys go back to AAA and then wind up, because they're fully permitted to work in the United States, going up to AEW, but as contracted AAA wrestlers. That's just me speculating on the business of things, so.
Yes.
Dusty, did you have any thoughts on this?
Gosh. I'm trying to think of where people would go. I think that we see certain people stick together wherever they go. I think Facción Ingobernable are going to go as a group no matter where they go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they could really make a big shakeup and impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of where I would like to see them go. He had a very, very nice statement about the Ring of Honor thing, and that it would always be, ungovernable and all this stuff. Very nice. I don't know. What I would mostly like to see is somebody else to come in. Maybe, something new. There's a void right now. Ring of Honor not doing anything for 6 months. There's time for somebody to come in and kind of take that Ring of Honor place. We've seen Ring of Honor, who knows what they're going to do when they come back, but we saw NXT rebrand, this NXT 2.0, kind of this different thing. There's still a market for pure wrestling. There's a lot of us that love that Ring of Honor style. And so if somebody had enough money and was savvy enough to make the connections, or already had the connections built in, I think that this would be an excellent opportunity for either an indie to rise up and become a super indie, or a brand new company to come about and kind of be an online company.
There is another major player that we haven't mentioned yet that could take advantage of this void as well, and has
MLW.
a lot of crossover. Okay, that's two. We didn't. I didn't bring them. I was gonna say New Japan's American Dojo because
New Japan Strong would be amazing.
They cross over a lot with style. That was ROH was very much about that strong style. But you're right, MLW could easily fill in the void too. The main reason I didn't think about that is because they're already making big moves. Like they were going to. That
was my thought. Is they're already so far up that it wouldn't take much of a step to take Ring of Honor's spot. Like they could easily move into that. I think Impact is really the third tier at this point, but they could be the next level. I mean, the level before Impact, before AEW, before WWE. If all these guys are still running things the way they are, we've seen Bryan Danielson on Dark, which used to be the developmental program. We have all these people on NXT. There's still room for somewhere to see new people that aren't necessarily TV ready, but they're exciting. They're, seasoned traveling indie wrestlers, people you want to see. And so somebody like MLW, they've already got the TV deal with Vice. They've got the online footprint. They've got the fan base. If they could seize this moment somehow, this could be takes them from a wrestling company to the indie wrestling company.
And you're right, like there is now this opening, but also it's such a perfect blend where they do have Azteca Underground. So if you're looking for the variety of talent on the Lucha side, they could probably fit very well in there. But then if you just want to focus on more strong and pure style, that has a place in MLW too. So I think with the rise of popularity and visibility of MLW, they could utilize this time to become, the new, to really step in that place that Ring of Honor had, for many, many years.
Yeah.
As this, not just of pure wrestling, but again, a fusion. I think that's also what makes MLW stand out, is that it's a fusion of different wrestling styles that you can find on one television product. So I think that this could be a really good opening. Not to say that someone's gonna, jump in right away, but I do think that if we do lose Ring of Honor, that could be where MLW can capitalize and try and bring in those fans into that product. But you're right, as far as the New Japan side on the West Coast, they could definitely capitalize on some of that Ring of Honor talent as well. And just independents from across the United States, can now showcase these talents as well. And I think that would help draw people to independent shows. But I really agree with that MLW statement.
As an extra little cherry on top there, Rey Horus was already on Lucha Underground. So if they don't capitalize and put him in Azteca Underground, they are missing an opportunity. And they don't seem to be big on missing opportunities for this upcoming Lucha promotion.
No, and MLW has stated where the majority of their roster is signed. They have about 80% of their roster signed, but I believe it's about 20% that they have kind of more of a fluidity with who they bring and utilize. And so even if it's not signing them in particular, but bringing them in for, limited engagements or a taping, that still, you could leverage that on a short-term basis.
Heck yeah. And 6 months is the perfect time to do it. Like they can just pop in for a taping or two and call it good and effectively get a double payday, which is again, I want to re-stress this because I don't think we brought this up. ROH was the most responsible company in the lockdown era. People got paid for all the dates, whether an event happened or not. They continued to work towards having a safe bubble before they announced a return to wrestling. This may have been part of the big expenses that were created, but at the same time, it shows why you have the loyalty, why you have these generous statements coming out there about what a great company they were. It's that they put the wrestlers and all of their family talent first. That means the hero who sets up the ring, as well as all the guys in the office and the wrestlers in between, right? Like that's, yeah. So
yeah,
I just wanted to really stress that this is it's so, and they're following that. They're following with a generous thing where they're still going to get paid now during this time. And I just got the shut up Brendan notification, so
not shut up, but we do have to move forward a bit. And it's incredibly hard, because we do have other aspects to talk about, because the fact that there's still just a lot of information that we still need to know, and ultimately too, how things they have framed on their social media compared to what they really mean as well. That too could be, is this just a way to stall before saying that they're going to sell? Are they truly trying to do a revamp? Did they have to really cut everybody loose in order to do this revamp? There's still, a lot of pieces of information and a lot of speculation out there, but that we are going to be covering this as much as we can on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, because this absolutely has implications for the luchadors on the show and, of course, all, wrestling promotions.
Right. Yeah. So, lots of big news coming out of this.
Yes. Yeah. With that, we already talked a little bit about AEW, but Dusty, go ahead and take us away with what happened this week on AEW product.
Well, first up, we had Rampage, and we touched on this match last week, but we had Pac versus Andrade. We finally got to see it, and what a great match. Right away, it started with everyone besides the competitors being banned from ringside. So there's no Lucha Bros, no FTR, whoever Andrade's buddies with now. Just these two dudes tearing it up in the ring. The chemistry between Pac and Andrade is incredible. I've talked about this before with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, but when the chemistry is just right between two wrestlers like this, the results are always just sublime. The pacing and the dynamics in this match were perfectly laid out, and I was just constantly impressed with Andrade, and I really wish he could have gotten a win out of this one. However, Pac picked up the win after getting the small package on Andrade. It was a 6-minute and 22-second match, and despite my wish that Andrade Pac had gotten attention on Dynamite instead of Rampage, these guys have kind of been the star of Rampage for a couple of weeks now. They're not going to get a 16.5-minute match on Dynamite. Like, there's no way they're going to get to have the banger of a match either. There's so many EVPs involved in Dynamite that I feel like they wouldn't have necessarily wanted to have followed this match. And, I mean, like, that's how good they are. There's something special between the two of them, and I would like to see more between them in the future. After the match, Malachi Black showed up to mist Pac. Andrade told Malachi to bring in the chair, but then Cody Rhodes showed up and fought him off. I think we're going to see Andrade aligning with Aleister Black in some way going forward. This coming week on Dynamite, he's got a match against Cody. So Andrade versus Cody, I think, will be a lot of fun. We'll touch on a little bit more of that here in a minute about why it'll be a lot of fun. But it's interesting. There's a lot of possibilities with this, and they're really working hard to make Andrade feel exciting. And this is the most exciting he's felt since he started in AEW. To me, at least, I feel like there's finally something exciting going on. Then also this week we had Tuesday. night dark, not dark elevation, regular Tuesday dark. And we had Too Fast, Too Fuego and their AEW tag team debut.
What the heck?
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, we have Fuego del Sol, who you may be familiar with. We've mentioned him many times on the show. But now we have Fuego Dos. And they went up against Kid Bandit and Dean Alexander. Like, imagine telling somebody a few days before WrestleMania this year that by Halloween, Daniel Bryan would go back to being Bryan Danielson. He'd be tearing it up on AEW Dark in one of the best matches, if not the best match to ever air on Dark. And that the lead-in match for that would be Cody Rhodes under a mask teaming with Fuego del Sol against an anime fan who Naruto runs at people. And we'd all love it. Like, it's crazy. It was such a fun and entertaining match. Cody, despite whatever you think of Cody, he really committed to this. He has the tattoo blocking makeup on the dream tattoo, the neck tattoo.
Well, that I didn't notice. That's commitment. I think that's also, being part of that TV world now, he got access to all that stuff. So I appreciate he really is committing to the character. And I think that's at least, for whatever you want to say about him, he truly commits to something. When he sees a vision in his head about a character or a persona, he goes all in with it. And he makes you believe it. And he makes you, kind of understand he's so multifaceted. And I can really, really appreciate that.
So we keep talking like it's for sure Cody. And I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not, but they did a good enough job with blocking the tattoos and the commentators kind of mentioning that it might not be Cody, but they think it is. We do have to give them that kind of, let's go ahead and call it kayfabe for this one, but it could be anybody under that mask. It just happens to look an awful lot like the same body type as Cody.
Does have a different moveset, So if it is Cody, he's showing his dedication by switching up his moves, a little bit more of a Stardust style moveset than the traditional Fuego moveset that we've seen from Fuego del Sol, now with Fuego Dos. But Fuego Dos is really popular. Like, this tag team was super popular with the fans.
I was shocked.
People online talked about it. I mean, I saw a lot about it. People would casually, 2 or 3 times, in the last few days. Just a couple of days have passed since we saw it when we recorded, but 2 or 3 people have mentioned to me, hey, did you see Cody Rhodes' luchador now? He's got a mask. And I was like, yeah, it's really cool, right? It's just an exciting thing, and it's nice to see Cody embracing that. Compared to what we see in WWE, it gives me a lot of hope for luchadors and masked wrestlers in AEW. I feel like that's an important part of wrestling. It's one of my personal favorite things. Allegedly, Vince isn't super high on masks, and that's part of the deal. So I like that Cody likes masks. That's what's good for that is good for me.
I honestly thought you were going to mention this. It is worth mentioning that is a legit mask he's wearing. That's not a fan grade mask. That is somebody
super legit made it. Whoever makes Fuegos, I would imagine,
Yeah.
But it is a very nice mask. He's taking it very seriously. And very cool. We also had Dynamite this week twice. We had a Saturday Dynamite. There wasn't much in the way of Lucha on Saturday. We had a quick video promo between the Lucha Bros and FTR. But then news came out later in the week that part of the deal, and part of why AAA was so excited about FTR getting the tag titles, didn't have as much to do with FTR as it did with Vicky Guerrero. She is going to be their manager in Mexico and in AAA. If you've seen Vicky, she can just get nuclear heat. Mm-hmm. They love to hate a great Rudo in Mexico. And can you imagine Vicky in front of a Triple Mania crowd? Oh, So good. Jeff Jarrett thought he was the best Rudo in Mexico, but he is in for a rude awakening, my friends, because Vicky is going to get booed out of Mexico City. Like, I am so excited for that. I have never seen anybody get people so upset by doing so little at a wrestling show as Vicky had. I mean, women just wanting to fight her, going crazy in the crowd, and all she had to do was come out there and make that face and say, "Excuse me." And
sometimes
good.
She doesn't even need to say "excuse me," just the face.
Yeah. Just the presence.
Yeah. Oh no. And she's going to, when she's in Mexico, even though she can speak Spanish, she will speak only English, and it will.
She knows.
She would be the best heel. And that's what I was going to say too, is it's so good for FTR because they have their own thing going. They're classic wrestling.
You should be saving for the future, but savings accounts suck, and investing can be scary. We combine the ease of savings with the real returns of investing. We call it Save Vesting, and it's only available in our new app, Stairs. Stairs offers 4 to 6% returns, no fees, and you can withdraw anytime. Do your future a favor. Visit StairsApp.com today.
I'm Brenda Connor, identity theft victim.
No, I'm Brenda Connor.
Too bad it's hard to tell which Brenda is real.
That's what you think. I've got LifeLock to monitor my info and alert me to potential identity threats. And if I become a victim, they help fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock can help protect what's mine. How about that, Brenda? Thought so.
Join LifeLock by Norton and save up to 25% off your first year at LifeLock.com with promo code LifeLock.
Thing. But, a strong and, kind of mean and crazy woman as a manager is a kind of a classic thing in wrestling. And Vicky knows everybody. She has been everywhere. She has met every wrestler there is because of her family connection and her WWE connection. And this is going to be so great for FTR because not only do they kind of need somebody to help them get over as heels, and Vicky is going to be amazing for that in Mexico. But they also need somebody to kind of help them navigate Mexico, navigate the lucha thing, the politics, the people. And Vicky, like I mentioned, knows everybody. She's been everywhere. So this is like the perfect pairing to help them.
It will make them have that legitimacy so they don't get just absolutely the shit beat out of them in the middle of the ring.
Well, and I think it's also great for her to be able to do something within this AEW framework. Her managing has been very hit or miss. And, she started off with Nyla, and that's been, seeming more comical than influential. She started with Andrade, and that didn't last, and now with FTR, which could make the most sense because it's the best of both. It could be comical when it needs to be. It could be serious when it needs to be. She adds some, depth to FTR and to their reign. And they also, give her, a great team. Cause also when you think about it, stepping in for Tully, it's a perfect sense that they need someone like her to do that. But I think she needs someone, to really manage that allows her to show that versatility that she has.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is Vicky's first foray into AAA, and so it also helps her, for as much as it gives FTR the Vicky Guerrero rub, she gets the FTR rub. She's appearing with champions. She's appearing with young people. These are the people that sought her out. It also kind of helps tie together the FTR, Andrade, Vicky, Chavo. It kind of ties all of that together in a way. We couldn't really figure it out yet, but we're starting to see pieces go into place now that are explaining all of this. We mentioned it, I believe Miranda mentioned it. Vicky was Andrade's manager when he came out, and then he had Chavo, and then he kind of kicked Chavo out. Now he's got nobody. So it's interesting to see what's going on. I think it'll be interesting to see if he pairs up with Vicky in the future. There's just a lot that could happen with this that's exciting. And speaking of exciting, we've had Dynamite back on Wednesday. We had a hell of a match between Sammy Guevara and Ethan Page for the TNT title.
Woo-hoo!
This Oh, such a great match. Really fun match. Sammy is so good at what he does, and he is just so charismatic, and he just has that it factor that you can't explain. You just can't help but be excited by what he does when you watch him, and you can't help but watch him. And he just has that quality that makes you want for him to succeed. He's really doing that in a big way in AEW right now. Sammy is, he's just so good, and he makes it all look effortless. There's tons of high-flying action in this match. Sammy really excels at that, and he's so precise in his work, and so crisp, and so clean, that it's easy to forget how young he is, and that this is somebody that's on their way up and has been built up in AEW, rather than coming into AEW as a main event talent. I don't know if a lot of you remember when he came out at All In. I watched it. I wasn't super familiar with Sammy. I was familiar, but not super familiar. He had the panda head. He just wasn't the guy. He didn't even strike you as somebody who could be the guy. But now it's obvious that Sammy is going to be the guy. As far as what it takes to succeed in the main event, I think that Sammy is the best all-arounder that AEW has for their next generation of talent. I think it's very likely he's going to be the first kind of, not necessarily homegrown, but mostly homegrown within AEW talent to win that AEW World Heavyweight Championship. For as much as we love Jungle Boy, I love Jungle Boy, or as much as we love to hate MJF, Sammy genuinely, he has the best all-around style, he has the best presence, he has the best charisma, and he has all of that in a way that works as both a face and a heel without having to change a whole lot. Sammy's Sammy, and depending who you put him up against, it could kind of play either way. He's the best and he knows it. And I love that about him. This is the beginning of a big climb for Sammy, and I highly recommend everybody keep their eye on him. He's only a year or two away from becoming the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, in my opinion. You can mark my words on that. I think within the next 6 months, we'll start to see him in main event level title matches, challenges. I am so excited for Sammy. This match and all his work lately have just shown that AEW's behind Sammy, that when they put him in a high value or a high position, he can exceed all expectations. I don't want to fan out too much on Sammy, but seriously, Sammy Guevara is going to be the guy. And watching this match, that was it was a great match. I love Ethan Page. I love to hate Ethan Page as the heel, the Rudo. If you've seen my Instagram, you know I'm the only hater and a whole sea of people when Ethan Page is coming down the steps. But Sammy was so good in this. He is what stands out. Like, I love Ethan Page. So much fun. But you can't take your eyes off of Sammy. He just looked like a star the entire time on Wednesday. And I don't know what else to say about it. Like, I feel like I'm kind of gushing about how great he is. But I do feel it's important to note that this was a match that suffered from AEW overbooking. But that's true. Too many stipulations on there, but they kept most of that out of the way until the match was over. So that shows their faith in Sammy and Ethan's ability to perform. And then they put all of the schmoz nonsense in, which we needed. So that supports your gushing that they 100% believe in him. So I just wanted to make sure we got that in there too. And also my usual complaint that, just too many stipulations on the match.
That's fair.
They projected who was going to win by those stipulations they put on there, because the only way Sammy was going to escape all of the nonsense was to win. So, and then the good guys get the thing. Yeah. So. Yeah. And AEW, for as much as they do a lot of the nonsense that telegraphs who's going to win and who's going to lose, at the same time, it's very satisfying to feel that your guy, the good guy, has won, the bad guy has lost, and they
really retain that feel in a way that WWE doesn't. And so for as much as I do have issues with the overbooking, like you mentioned, at the same time, they understand that the core of it is good guy versus bad guy, and good guys should win. And I really respect AEW for that. It makes a more enjoyable, more casually enjoyable product, but the talent inside the ring makes it a much more enjoyable product for people that, really focus on work rate and ring work like I do. Yeah, a lot going on. Check back next week for Dynamite. Hopefully we'll have some Lucha Bros information. In the meantime, be sure to check out luchacentral.com. Pep will have everything that you need to know about AEW. Rampage this Friday, Dark Elevation on Monday rather, Dark on Tuesday. He's got it all, and it's at luchacentral.com. Okay. And now we have Miranda. She's going to tell us what's going on in MLW this week.
Yes, a lot of MLW news coming out. But first, we're going to start off with this week's Alpha Fusion. The episode started with Mil Muertes and Cesar Duran discussing business. And Cesar had stated that it was Mil who talked and confronted Cesar about now that Mil has fulfilled his end of the deal, i.e. becoming the IWA Caribbean champion and beating Richard Holiday, that Cesar would now need to hold up his end of the deal. Cesar reminded / asked Mil if he understood that by upholding his end of the deal, it would involve a sacrifice, in which Mil replied yes. And in that, Cesar Duran provided Mil with a glowing box in which he opened. So we don't know what is in that box, and we quite not sure about what it means, but, it is just something that we will wait and see. It's still the mystery of Azteca Underground. As far as this week's episode goes of content, though, we did have an opening round match for the Opera Cup, Lee Moriarty versus Bobby Fish, in which Bobby Fish won by submission. We got a great segment from Los Parks with some trick-or-treat tips, in which they beat up some poor schmuck with a Conan mask and touted on the glory of Mexican candy over U.S. American candy. And sent a message to Conan, which was later replied to in some way by a promo from 5150, with Conan calling out Los Parks. They stated they've already taken care of Injustice. Now it's time for them to go to Los Parks. Something that Danny Limelight Rivera had said on our show a little over a month ago about how 5150, him and Slice, are targeting every single tag team belt they can out there. Another aspect of the show, we were supposed to see Calvin Tankman versus Gino Medina. However, that didn't happen because Calvin Tankman got attacked in the backstage area, cutting his head open, and so he was not able to compete that day. And then your main event for the show was another Opera Cup opening round match, TJP versus Alex Shelley. This match in particular I really liked because they were so tit for tat. Point counterpoint was the term that commentary used, and I absolutely agree with that. They both controlled the pace of the match, to a T, and they both had smooth and fluid movements, seamless transitions between moves and submission holds in particular. TJP won that match after a roll-up win, leveraging the ropes to secure that pin, by the way. So as much as TJP is a babyface in a lot of places that he goes, MLW is one place where he is no babyface at all. So Bobby Fish and TJP advance in the Opera Cup tournament. As far as the news coming out of MLW this week, a lot of announcements about their War Chamber event happening on November 6th in Philadelphia. Some of the matches that were announced this week, we are going to see Homicide versus LA Park. This is the first time in 3 years that Homicide is returning to MLW. And of course, LA Park, a lucha legend. So two brutal guys going at it in Philadelphia. That's something that, the
House of Hardcore.
Right. Exactly. Chairs everywhere. Not a place to sit. Because they're all going to be in the ring, I feel like. And then also announced this week is that we are going to have a ladder match for the vacant National Openweight Championship. And this will actually air on Fusion, I believe, the week of Thanksgiving. We are going to see Alex Shelley versus Myron Reed versus Zenshi versus Alex Zane versus an unnamed wild card. So a huge opportunity for friend of the show, Zenshi. To be in this ladder match, this could be his element. If we saw him, remember seeing him in Filthy Island, he jumped off a tree into the ring. So the man can fly. But, Alex Shelley, who is a veteran and has wrestled all over the world, Myron Reed, who has something to prove after losing his championship belt, Alex Zane, someone that Court Bauer has touted as the future of MLW, and of course the wild card. We were talking about it earlier. Granted, this match was announced before we got news of Ring of Honor, but that doesn't mean behind the scenes, that wasn't already in the works. So it could be anyone, but it could be someone that may have been more released recently, say from Ring of Honor or from, WWE. It could be someone from the independent scene that we haven't seen in a while or an up-and-comer. That wild card really throws this whole match, or someone just on the roster already. That leaves a big air of unknown in this match. But I was very excited to hear Zenshi as part of this match. And also two men who have worked a lot with each other in the independents. We already talked about them a little bit earlier as tag team partners at Galley, but they are going to be facing each other again. Adamies versus Eddies. MLW was really high on their match, and at this time, Adamies is 2-0 against Addies. The big catch with this is that the winner gets a briefcase full of cash. So Cesar Duran strikes with this match, making it lucrative, something to really incentivize them to put together a good match, which you don't really need to incentivize them, but money, well, everybody has a price.
Right?
All known.
I just want to add to the hype of that match. Alex Zane, beyond being touted as the future of that, has had several viral moments, including a forward out of the ring 450 splash through a door. He is, there's not an object. I know him personally. There's not an object he's been afraid to jump off of. If you've seen any of these Seattle underground gyms that we have, he's found every nook and cranny and jumped out of them. So, you're gonna see some really special moments before we even add that mystery wrestler, just with the wrestlers announced.
Yes, absolutely. There's just a lot that could happen with this, this card. And that's not all. There's still more, to come. So we, talked earlier about, Bobby Fish and TJP advancing. We did get confirmation that TJP will be facing Calvin Tankman in the Opera Cup semifinals. So that's going to be one where, again, speed and agility of TJP, is going to, make it to his advantage against the size and strength of, Calvin Tankman.
They are playing up that match will only happen that way if Tankman can make it. They did remind people there are alternates in the Opera Cup.
Yeah.
The Suplex Assassin is the first person that would get tapped in.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me go back to something in the ladder match, because as you were saying Alex Zane, I realized I gave the wrong name for that ladder match. So it's not Alex Zane, it is Alex Kane.
Alex
Kane, yes,
which makes more sense, but I said Alex Zane, and I
my apologies to that. Because as soon as you were talking about Alex Zane, I was like, wait, no, that's not who I meant to say. So Alex Kane is that, and that's exactly. So still, Court Bauer did tout Alex Kane as the future, someone who is more of a recent signee of it. But who knows? Maybe we do see Alex Zane there. I know he's quickly making his way through the independents, but I want to make this correction before I go through.
Yeah, especially since I put I'll find another chance to hype up Alex. That's fine.
Yes, but I'm sorry. Alex Kane is the additional person in the ladder match.
Who is also the first alternate in the Opera Cup. So
yes. Yes. And then as well, some pretty interesting news is Enzo is going to be making his MLW debut against Matt Cross. And, you know, Enzo, Enzo Amore, you know, is somewhat of a polarizing figure within wrestling, to say the least. But the man has bravado, the man has character, and it will be very interesting to see how he folds into this. And Matt Cross is not going to be an easy match. Matt Cross, talking about versatility, again, has also wrestled all over the world, has a hybrid of styles, you know, and for whatever he may not have in bolsterous voice like Enzo, he absolutely has in moveset. So War Chamber is looking to become a very loaded card. So make sure you stay tuned. Some of those will be available as part of Alpha Fusion over the next few weeks, and of course on YouTube. Speaking of that, recently put on YouTube is the 4-way middleweight championship match, Tajiri, Myron Reed, Adames, and Addies. That full match is now available online at MLW's YouTube page. So if you missed it on Vice, you can find the entire match on YouTube. And as we talked about Addies and Adames earlier, or even in previous episodes, very much a Tajiri super crazy type of scenario where they will fight forever. And we are just the lucky people who get to watch that forever.
Yeah.
So very great on that. But that is this week in Major League Wrestling. A lot to cover and a lot to see, but you know that we got you covered each and every week on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Up next, This Week in Lucha Libre History with Dusty.
Yeah, that's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for this day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, matches of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre. And it's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week we chose October the 27th, 2000, when CMLL held the first ever CMLL La Leyenda Azul, which literally means the Blue Legend, at Arena Mexico in Mexico City. And this was an awesome show. It was held in tribute to the legendary Blue Demon, very much the same way, the same kind of style and idea that Santo was honored with the La Leyenda de Plata. These shows were held just on a regular Friday night each time. It was a special, like, Super Viernes show instead of CMLL's regular Super Viernes show. But they were all on Friday nights, and they continued to be held annually pretty regularly from 2000 till 2009, when Blue Demon Jr., he was no longer with CMLL. He threatened them with a lawsuit over using the name and the NWA titles and all kinds of stuff. So they discontinued them for a couple of years. But after 2 years, they returned. And they continued after El Hijo del Blue Demon gave his approval, and 5 shows went on between 2011 and 2017. Doing some research into this, I discovered that due to not having a show since 2017, Rush is still considered the reigning Leyenda La Azul champion. So, nice little throw into some Rush conversation this week. Cool spot. On this show, however, this was the first iteration, the very first La Leyenda Azul, and we had a tournament format that saw Blue Panther come out on top after beating Mr. Niebla in a 16-man Torneo Cybernetico match. Yeah, very cool. The other luchadors involved were Brazo de Plata, Bestia, Cien Caras, Emilio Charles Jr., Liz Mark Jr., Rayo de Jalisco Jr., Villano 4, Apollo Dantes, Villano 3, Shocker, Mascara Año 2000, El Satanico, and Legends of Lucha Libre star Pedro Aguayo. So quite a show. Yeah, a lot of big names tied in there, a lot of talent. Recommend you check this out on YouTube this week. It's out there. The whole show's on there.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Blue Panther versus Satanico alone is worth the time.
So good.
Yeah.
This was an awesome show. Because it was the first one. They really went all out. And it telegraphs when you watch it. You see it all. Yeah, it's great.
So, go ahead, Miranda.
No, please go.
I was gonna say, so we just were doing the special look at this week. We're not weighing in with all of our thoughts. So I was gonna kick it back to you, Miranda.
Yes, no, that's what I was, great minds think alike. Just reiterating that this information and of course to stay in Lucha Libre is, located at luchacentral.com. It's something a little different this week as far as honoring, a very special event, commemorating someone whose impact in Lucha Libre is a millionfold. And that's also kind of a thing about Lucha Libre, as you could tell, a lot of commemorative events and tournaments and cups to honor those who have passed. And so it is also somewhat fitting as we head into Dia de los Muertos early next week, as this is very much a time in celebrating those who have passed on. With that, though, there's so much more that you can find on luchacentral.com. Brendan, can you tell our listeners what else they can find on luchacentral.com?
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish, find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else, find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area, find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of that, it's free. I mean, you can't beat that price. Free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
So speaking of spooky season, we had Halloween Havoc this week on NXT. We got a special appearance by Chucky himself, horror legend and apparently star of his own new show on the USA Network. So, go ahead.
It's no RoboCop.
No. I mean, but also, let's say hello to future Hall of Fame inductee Chucky, because that celebrity wing is drying up real quick. Man, who do you think will get into the WWE Hall of Fame first, Chucky or RoboCop?
RoboCop.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be RoboCop. I'm honestly shocked he hasn't been in there already.
Right. Again, it's a very thin, celebrity wing. So who knows?
I don't know. If Sting always stays with AEW, Chucky has a chance. He could be the shoe-in over RoboCop.
Yeah, that's true.
That's RoboCop without Sting.
Yeah, that's acknowledging. Yeah, it's acknowledging Sting more than I think WWE wants to at this point. So, but the very first match of the night was the Scareway to Hell ladder match for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. The reigning champions Io Shirai and Zoe Stark had to work their way through two other teams, Toxic Attractions, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, and Indy Hartwell and Persia Parada, to try and get those belts back. A big brawl started the match with Toxic Attraction being thrown out of the ring. You had a great double drop kick on Indy and Persia from Zoe and Io. I feel like a lot of great tag team work between Io and Zoe. Zoe really pushing herself on more of kind of that acrobatic side as well in this match. You also had a spot where Io moved out of a suplex in transition that was originally going to be one on a ladder into a double DDT. And again, with kind of the acrobatic movements, both Io and Zoe took turns jumping from the ropes to the ladders to try and stop Indy Hartwell from moving her way up the ladder. Io, of course, it wouldn't be an Io Shirai match without a moonsault, so she landed a beautiful moonsault on JCJ on the ladder. So that she was definitely worn out at that point. But there was also somewhat of a scary spot towards the end of the match where Indy pushed Io off the ladder onto another ladder that was set up outside of the ring, and she took a pretty rough tumble to the ground, even to the point that Indy Hartwell was concerned. But that was enough of a distraction for Toxic Attraction to climb up the ladder to retrieve the titles and become your new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Later that night, we had the NXT Women's Championship defended, Raquel Gonzalez versus Mandy Rose. It was a spin the wheel, make the deal match in which the wheel was spun to determine the stipulation, which landed on Chucky's choice, and he chose a trick-or-treat street fight. That's a no count-out, no DQ match, with the match having to end in a pinfall or a submission in the ring, which Mandy Rose learned the hard way because she tried to pin Raquel Gonzalez outside of the ring, and the referee told her, sorry, you can't do it, you gotta get in, which really pissed her off. But back to the entrance, Raquel Gonzalez just came out like a badass on a motorcycle into the ring.
Hell
Great
yeah.
lime green look. But yeah, I think I echoed what commentary said out loud. Raquel Gonzalez looked like a badass coming into the ring.
She always looks like a badass, but I mean, there was extra. That spoon was heaping today.
Yeah. She just looked vicious on her way out.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed.
Yeah. Badass. Raquel dominated, most of the match to start off with, and eventually Mandy Rose was able to find some openings, utilizing some speed with kicks in the corner. The one thing I will commend Mandy Rose on in this match is that once she got a good shot in, she did not let up. She realized that's what she needed in this match. Also, this was a stipulation match, no DQ, so weapons were allowed. The utilization of a kendo stick helped out. The stairs, a table, which ultimately was used when Raquel speared Mandy into that said table. But towards the end of the match, we did see a masked figure come to the ring. That masked figure hit Raquel on the back with a shovel, and that allowed Mandy Rose to land a kick to the head of Raquel for the pin and become your new NXT Women's Champion. After that, we saw the masked figure going into the ring and reveal themselves to be Dakota Kai. So Dakota Kai is back in NXT. It looks like we are going to be continuing that feud between Dakota and Raquel, but with no championship because now Toxic Attraction holds all of the gold. I think this stipulation match had to happen this way in order for the transition of champions, because I think it was just not going to be believable enough to have Mandy Rose outright win.
Yep.
Again, I said to her commitment to this match, Mandy really took advantage of a lot of openings and utilization of those weapons. But again, too, it was also very hard to look at this match when you've seen Raquel defend against Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai and Dakota Kai in just very strong, singles matches. And so to have this be the way that she loses the NXT Women's Championship is one where it feels a bit overbooked, but it has almost had to happen that way because what other scenario would have been believable?
No, I actually don't view this one as overbooked at all. Like you said, it's the most believable way Mandy wins this. And also by having the Dakota Kai feud reignited, that explains why Raquel doesn't just immediately come back and try for the title again. So this is the perfect way to get the belt off of Raquel in a manner where she still looks strong. So.
And we do continue that storyline between Dakota and Raquel, which, has some depth to it. This is over a year in the making. So I think that it is one of the elements of the quote-unquote old NXT that will, be incorporated into NXT 2.0. How long that lasts, who knows? What that means for challengers. And I think we even brought this up last week, whether it was on the air or just in some of our discussions. It does allow for a wider variety of challengers now to step up to the plate and allow for more believability of the title to change at any point. And one person I distinctly remember, I think Dusty bringing up, was Frankie Monet. A Frankie Monet Mandy Rose match would be awesome, and it would be very believable, if you were thinking about what your next champion or who your next champion could be after Mandy, could absolutely be Frankie Monet.
And should be.
It should be. That's also the point. It should be Frankie Monet.
She's a legitimate contender, and that hasn't already been champion, at least in my opinion.
Not as she's been presented is my only.
Not as she's been presented in NXT, but just knowing her history.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. We touched on that in the banter earlier in the show with the PWI. Like, her star has really fallen, and the way she's displayed and highlighted in NXT is not what it was in Impact or Lucha Underground or AAA. And so I think that kind of coming to terms with who Taya was and who Frankie Monet is a lot harder for some of us than maybe your more casual NXT or WWE fan.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, more changes to come in NXT. Also, on a side note, we did have new NXT Tag Team Champions. MSK lost the titles to Imperium, so they are back as tag champions. What this means for the tag title scene, who knows? I know we are always, hoping Legado de Fantasma gets a shot at those again, because they came close multiple times. In, what this means for the NXT tag title scene, who knows? But again, a continuance of a lot of movement. The only title that has not changed is the NXT championship. Tommaso Ciampa defended that and successfully won his match. And so, yes, it's a lot of changes that continue to happen with NXT 2.0, which we got you covered on luchacentral.com. Up next, CMLL. Brendan, you have a few things about Day of the Dead lineup.
I have, so we're gonna go over that. First, I have some results. TJP was in Mexico City. So, Friday, last Friday, the 22nd, we had a match, or we had a series of matches. The last two are what I'm going to cover here. We had Mystico and Ultimo Guerrero in the semi-main event. Mystico came out on top. The reason that I mention this is because at the aftermatch, is leading to a mask versus hair match between the two. And it is unlikely, with Mystico having just gotten the Mystico title back, that he's going to lose his mask. So we could see a bald Ultimo Guerrero in the near future, which is
better than his hockey hair.
He's exciting to me for all the wrong reasons, because he has one of the ugliest mullets in wrestling.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Like, it's literal achy breaky hockey hair. Like, it's terrible.
I've seen a lot of bad mullets in wrestling, but his is one of the worst.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, it really is. And he's absolutely right. It's a terrible mullet.
I'm looking at you, Ricky, if you're listening to the show. But in the main event, we had Titan and Volador Jr. against Templario and TJP. And TJP did not come out on top on this. They were using him as a foreign Rudo. Titan and Volador came out on top. They took the last two falls. The bad guys took the first one. It's great to see him back. And again, I just, since we've been talking about it, I wanted to give you a result from from the show that he did. Hopefully we get a few more, but that's the only one that I've seen him on the lineup for, so I wanted to get that in there. So CMLL is doing 3 Day of the Dead shows. I believe I had previously said they were going to be free. I was gravely mistaken. They're doing them on iPay-per-view, which means no replay. So you're going to have to watch them live if you want to see them. I do always recommend
allegedly them. At least one of them is going to be on New Japan World. So you may be able to watch one of them on replay on New Japan World if you're a subscriber.
Okay. Well, we will keep you up to date on that. But so we have a show Friday, 11:02 in Arena, Mexico. We have another show. Oh, sorry, not Friday. 11:02 in Arena, Mexico. We have a show Friday, 11:05 in Arena, Mexico, and then Saturday at Arena Coliseo. Just a few highlights here. We're gonna have so I finally get to see Avispa Dorada at a Day of the Dead show. She'll be on the 11:02 show. Then we're going to have on that show you have the Cibernetico for the Rey del Inframundo, which is featuring Místico, Gran Guerrero, Volador Jr., Templario, Valiente, Gamilio Diablo 1, Atlantis Jr., Gamilio Diablo 2, Angel de Oro, and Felino. There's a bunch of other matches on there, and then, but we're gonna, because there's 3 loaded cards here, I'm gonna just trying to do this quick. Then the Friday, the Friday the 5th show at Arena Mexico, we'll have, Jared Cheetah and Uvia against Amapola and Metallica for the Mexican women's tag titles. Euphoria, Hechicero, and Mephisto, so the new, evil faction against Cavernario, Dragon Rojo Jr., and Ultimo Guerrero. And then Terrible against a Luchador Sorpresa. I mean, they haven't announced who that's going to be. I believe that's going to be the winner of the Cybernetico from the second show. And then the Arena Coliseo show, you will have, the Torneo La Gran Oportunidad. This is why I'm stuttering, because that's hard for me. That's going to feature Electrico, Robin, Oro Jr., Pegaso, Stigma, Hombre Bala Jr., Enfermo Jr., Disturbio, Cachorro, Halcón Soriano Jr., Sangre Imperial, Panterita Del Ring Jr., and this is basically, this is your chance to get into a main event match. That's why you're hearing a lot of names I normally don't say. These are Arena Coliseo guys who I believe they're going to get shipped out to go to Arena Mexico to face somebody in a more main event match and probably be absolutely murdered. But, you know, that's what you're here for. And then in the main on that one, you'll have Felino, Místico, Volador Jr. against Atlantis Jr., Gran Guerrero, and Ultimo Guerrero. This is a Relevos Incredibles 6-man match. So all pretty good lineups. I'm obviously going to have to catch the second show because I get to see Avispa Dorada. But all of these are on iPay-per-view. The full lineups are available on Lucha Blog. I can link you the full lineups. I'm gonna see if we can't get this up on Lucha Central at some point, but that's Pep's decision, not mine. And that's what we've got for CMLL this week. It's a pretty stacked lineup. I can't stress enough how cool these Day of the Dead shows are. They always put the production value up to the max. There's always actors in the garb. There's usually black lights and cool digital effects going around. Wrestlers get dragged to the underworld, which is,
it's awesome.
Yeah. It's just always very, very cool. So There you go. That's our Day of the Dead lineups. That's starting real soon. Like I said, the first show is on the 2nd, the second one is on the 5th, and the last one is all the way out on the 6th. That's the one that might wind up on YouTube at some point, because sometimes those Coliseum shows wind up being subverted and put on YouTube anyway. So, but that's piracy stuff I'm talking about there. And that's what I got for CMLL.
Thank you, Brendan. Up next, This Week in WWE with Dusty.
Yeah, we didn't really have anything on SmackDown on Friday, but Monday on Raw brought us a considerable amount. Not necessarily all great, but a considerable amount. First up, we had Zelina, as she defeated Dewdrops, which really pleased me, and I was kind of surprised about. Queen Zelina, as you know, Crown Jewel, they had the Queen's Crown tournament, and Zelina won. She, of course, her gimmick now is Queen Zelina, but it's given her some direction. And she's using similar tricks to what she used throughout her career in WWE and NXT when she was a manager, but she's applying them to herself to kind of keep winning matches. I love that. The ref didn't notice, but right around the 2-minute and 30-second spot in the match, Zelina blasted Dewdrop in the face with her Royal Scepter and was able to pick up the win. Nice spot. It kind of shows how Zelina was able to win despite her size. I liked the whole thing. 2 minutes and 30 seconds wasn't great, but honestly, Zelina getting a win in 2 minutes and 30 seconds on Raw is amazing. She's had as many wins since the beginning of the tournament now as she did in like the previous 4 years combined. So she's on her way up again. I love it. Zelina is one of my favorite wrestlers. I'm glad they're giving her the chance to wrestle. The next matchup was Austin Theory defeating Dominic Mysterio. Backstage after a talk, or kind of during a talk between Dominic and Ray, where Dominic was kind of getting a pep talk from Ray, but Ray offered to be at ringside. Dominic told Ray to focus on his match tonight, that he could handle this match, and Dominic could not have been more wrong. Austin Theory interrupted the speech. He wanted a selfie. Dominic wouldn't give it to him. And, yeah. Austin Theory he's racking up the wins on Raw, and he's doing a great job. He looks great. This week it was Dominic he got the win against. I'm not a fan. I want to see more from Dominic. I hate how he's kind of settling into a jobber role right now. You know, he's there to make other guys look good. He's just a big guy they can beat. Not a fan of that. Dominic didn't want to take a selfie before the match, so Austin took one with the ref after the match. Like I say, it's a very strong win for Dominic, or for Austin Theory rather, but it's another strong loss for Dominic, and his career's just kind of been filled with losses to important guys and losing important matches, and the feel of that and where it's going, not a fan personally. Then our third match, final match that was Lucha relevant of the night on Raw, we had the ladder match for a title shot for the WWE title going to get up against Big E. We had Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor versus Rey Mysterio. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, despite the talent involved in this match, I just didn't find myself that excited. You know, it's hard for me to get really hyped about a ladder match in the WWE because of the ladder match aspect. WWE kind of requires a certain amount of tropes for a ladder match that have removed a lot of the suspense for me and the excitement for me as a viewer. There's always a completely illogical table set up. There's always somebody going through a ladder that was laid out horizontally at ringside, usually balanced on the announcer's table. There's people that all of a sudden, they always forget that they're not having a regular match. They forsake the ladder, the clipboard, the briefcase, whatever they're trying to grab to do a move. People suddenly get up the ladder and forget how to grab a briefcase or grab a clipboard to undo a hook. I mean, like, it happens in every single ladder match.
Yeah.
True.
And the formulaic part of that. Yeah.
Just to re-stress this for those of you who haven't been watching as closely as we do, it's not one of these things. It's all of these.
Literally all of them in every single WWE ladder match. Like, it just wasn't, it takes all the organic factors out of the match for me, and all I notice is the formula with it, like, oh, there's that spot, oh, there's that spot,
Yep.
Like I can kind of point them out. Seth won the match, nothing new or interesting under the sun on Raw, as long as they can help it. I don't know, like, Seth versus Big E, I'm not that into that. Rey Mysterio losing again. I don't know what they're doing over there on Raw. Not a fan. Hopefully they can turn it around. But what I am a fan of is main event. I mentioned it last week that we would cover last week's. I couldn't get it to work. I don't know what the deal was. This week's main event wasn't great. No need to cover it. But last week we had Carrillo and Angel Garza in a tag match against Ricochet and John Morrison. And like, oh my gosh, this was an awesome match. You kind of knew it would be from the names involved, but it was so good. I wish they had some way to align Ricochet with Morrison and Miz. It would give Ricochet some direction in the WWE. It would also freshen him up a little bit, freshen his character up, and he would get that rub from working with the Miz. And I wish they had something more for him. This match made me wish they had more for him. And it also brought up one of my gripes with main event. They have commercials and matches that break up the show, just like every other wrestling show. But unlike most other wrestling shows, this is recorded. And so when they take 2.5 minutes out of the match to run commercials and then pick up instead of picking up where they left off, it really breaks up a lot of the match. I don't know why they do that. I mean, I guess I understand it. It presents it like a live program, but it really took away. This was a banger of a match. I feel like if they hadn't cut away for commercial, if we gotten those extra few minutes, it could have easily been a 4-star match, maybe 4.5-star match. It was incredible. What I liked, my favorite part of this match was that Carrillo got the pin. Usually, Angel Garza, he hits the wing clipper, we get the pin. This week he got the pin with a submission after Angel blasted Johnny Drip Drip, John Morrison, in the face. And I love that because Humberto needed to look a little stronger. He needed to be picking up some of these wins. And it just makes him look better. And unfortunately, this was probably their last match, at least for a while, on main event. Going to SmackDown, main events taped before Raw. I wish they had done more with the tag team pairing of Ricochet and Morrison against these guys, too, while we had it, because we saw a lot of iterations of this match, just not that set up. Humberto looks stronger every week. He looks more and more vicious every week, and he looks more and more legitimate every week. And I love what they did with him on main event and did with Garza Carrillo to build them up as a tag team before they go to SmackDown. Hopefully we'll get to see some interesting things there, and they won't just be fed to the Usos. But we'll see. 205 Live. Last week, too, Friday night, very exciting. Amari Miller and Valentina Feroz versus Katiana Cortez and Yulisa Leon. This was mostly just a quick tag match to get some TV exposure for these guys. Now that NXT is like its own third brand, 205 Live has really become where we see the trainees and a lot of the developmental work. And this was a great match for that. Miller picked up the win with a knee strike for the pin on Yulisa Leon at 3 minutes and 44 seconds. As we mentioned last week, Katrina is a masked luchadora from Chile, and Yulisa is a signing. She was very recently announced just last Thursday, October the 21st. She's a second-generation wrestler, also a bodybuilder. She has a great look, great body. She's from Mexico. Her dad is Monterrey wrestler Spider-Man, who you may be familiar with. He wrestles a lot under the name Spider-Man in the Monterrey and Tijuana scene. He was also Bronco in TJ in Monterrey before he became Spider-Man. That's a name a lot of people are familiar with. So she's got a lot of exciting family history in Lucha, and it's exciting to finally see some, luchadoras getting attention in WWE. That's something that had always been kind of lacking in WWE. We've seen luchadors, but we never really had any luchadoras in WWE. So it's kind of exciting to see that. We're going to see a little bit of a focus on Katrina. This coming Friday, October 29th, Katrina Cortez will be going up against Saray on 205 Live in a singles match. So check that out. Lots of good stuff in WWE, lots of bad stuff in WWE, lots of stuff in the middle. You just have to know where to look. And generally, Raw and SmackDown are not the places to look. But for all the information on WWE and more, luchacentral.com, that's where we have it all. Sorry, what were you going to say, Brendan? I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's funny because it's true. That's all I was saying.
Yes,
yeah. If you
good analogy.
Look, you can find great stuff, but it's few and far between. 205 Live and Main Event have quickly become my two favorite WWE programs.
Yeah.
I think that people are kind of sleeping on the quality of work in those shows, and you owe it to yourself to check it out. Seriously, I don't think you'll regret checking them out.
Yeah, I think it's a good point too about also not only the change happening with NXT, but just that domino effect, how that's impacting 205 Live.
Yeah, it used to be the Cruiserweight show.
Yes,
now it's developmental. Very interesting.
Very interesting, yes. So for our last news story of the week, is usually towards the end, just, for time's sake, but not a whole lot of lucha content as well. Impact Wrestling. This past Saturday, they had Bound for Glory, one of their biggest shows of the year. I do my mic drop. With that. Mic drop spot. So we did have Bound for Glory this past Saturday. A few interesting points as far as matches. Trey Miguel won the Impact X Division Championship after defeating El Fantasmo and Steve Macklin, who were the other two competitors in this match. Very first time that Trey Miguel has won the X Division Championship. So it is a great win for him and long overdue. We also saw Moose win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match, which was a 20 wrestler intergender gauntlet match. This is what we talked about last week, is where we would see some of that Lucha Libre AAA interaction. As noted, Laredo Kid did enter the match at number 12. As far as that New Japan surprise, but also a little bit AAA Lucha surprise as well, Rocky Romero came out at number 2 and was in this match. He was unfortunately eliminated pretty early on. He was the first person to be eliminated, and then further down the line, so was Laredo Kid. But Moose won. He eliminated Matt Cardona to win. That will have something about that in a second. Something additional to talk about with that. But Deonna Purrazzo defended her Impact Knockouts title against Mickie James. I think to the surprise of a lot of people, Mickie James ended up winning. She did her signature chick kick spin and then her DDT, her tornado DDT in order to land the pinfall, ending the reign of Deonna Purrazzo. And so we have not had any word yet of what that means for Deonna at the most recent Impact tapings. And just this week on Impact, we did see that Madison Rayne came out to challenge Mickie James, and what we will see a little bit later on as well is Mercedes Martinez possibly teasing cashing in her opportunity to face the Knockouts champion. With that also, after Trey Miguel won his X Division championship, Rocky Romero came out to attest and tease an interest in the X Division champion. We did see that come to fruition this week on Impact, where we had an X Division championship match between Rocky Romero and Trey Miguel. But Trey Miguel did win that match, but afterwards Steve Macklin came out to attack Trey. So we do seem like we have our next X Division championship feud lined up. And then as far as the main event, Josh Alexander challenged Christian Cage for the Impact World Championship, which he won. However, immediately after the match, Moose came out to cash in his Chairshot Gauntlet win, his trophy, to challenge Josh Alexander, which he did by pinfall, and won the Impact World Championship. So a pretty big swerve for, I know for me, I was not expecting Josh Alexander to lose that belt quite quickly and for Moose to cash in, but that also is not a surprise after seeing everything that Moose has done to try to get his hands on that belt for over a year now. So, very, very fitting. But that is your Impact Wrestling news. Other kind of interesting points is that there was a lot of news coming out of Bound for Glory, that Bound for Glory was the event that was going to end the Forbidden Door relationship between AEW and Impact Wrestling, which a fan like me is totally fine with, because it was just not benefiting Impact at all. Still no word on what that means for the relationship with New Japan and AAA. It looks like the partnership with New Japan is the most the most vital right now. But who knows if that means we will continue to see Laredo Kid's presence on Impact Wrestling news or Impact Wrestling television, if we will see more talent from AAA at any point come through. But yes, that has been some of the word coming out of Bound for Glory, and it's good to see the Impact World Championship back in Impact in an Impact feud. And as mentioned earlier, Impact Wrestling will be presenting Turning Point on Impact Plus on November 20th at Sam's Town in Las Vegas. So that will be their next event, and it is going to be exclusive to Impact Plus, as well as the TV tapings right after that on November 21st and 22nd, also at Sam's Town in Las Vegas. So make sure you stay tuned to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast that covers Impact Wrestling and more. And with that, that is it for this week's episode. Go ahead.
We had some breaking news on ROH. They have announced that due to technical difficulties, which are being blamed on the Sinclair hacks, which I have been researching during the show. Apparently some people have been hacking Sinclair Broadcasting in various cities. ROH this week is not going to be showing a new programming. They're going to be showing encore programming. So that just is adding to all of this story. I just wanted to throw that in here now because it will probably get lost in the shuffle with all of the follow-up news that will be happening next week.
Yes,
also, Miranda, I don't know, did you want to mention the other thing that I was talking about, or should we save that?
We could actually save that
Okay.
for next week. Let's save that. We will have news on a show coming up on December 11th related to Mask Republic. We will share more news on that next week. So make sure you stay tuned to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast because more details about that will be announced on next week's show. So please stay tuned. And make sure you follow LuchaCentral.com, your source for all things Lucha Libre, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And you can follow Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentral.com on Twitter. You have the Lucha Central YouTube page also available with lots of content on matches and interviews that you won't find anywhere else. With that, while you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yes, I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy. I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy. And we also have a Lucha Central Weekly News Facebook group on Facebook. So just search Lucha Central Weekly News in the groups and you will find us there.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321, and then T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram, and I'm all over the Twitters.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda, # spelled out on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're listening to us through one of your favorite podcast streaming platforms like Spotify, Podbase, Speaker, iTunes, and much, much more, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe. That way you get notifications every time a new episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast drops. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Let us know your thoughts on the show. Topics that you like, topics that you don't like, things that we should cover, things that we shouldn't cover, jokes you like, jokes you don't like, whatever that may be. Let us know in the review. And again, we do this each and every week, so make sure you stay tuned and listen to us at luchacentral.com. Thank you all so much for listening and staying tuned with us. You know that we're going to keep giving you the news you need to know in the world of Lucha Libre. So for Dusty Murphy and Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much for listening and have a great day.